I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the time and the place for the regular board meeting on February 17th. Welcome to all of you who are with us this evening, and welcome also to those of you who will be watching us on delayed broadcast. Allow me to introduce the individuals at the table with me. From my right, we have Karina Hernandez and Sean Heitman. From my left, we have Jan McGinnis, Mike Miller, and Sarah Faltas. At the center table with me to my right is Paulette Newbold, the board secretary, and to my left is Dr. Theron Schutte, the superintendent of schools, and I'm Bea Niblock. If any of you would like to address the board during public comment, please remember to sign in on the pink sheet on the speakers table. You'll be given 5 minutes to address the board. The board, according to board policy, will not be able to respond to your comments, but we thank you for them. Please read with me the mission for the Marshalltown Community School District. We develop learners who have the knowledge, skills, and positive mindset to successfully pursue a meaningful future through personalized learning experiences. And stand as you're able and join me in the pledge.
I'm tired of people, I feel like I'm blocking the flag and nobody can see it. So I'm gonna stand here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The only one who cares. You know, the rest of us go, what the heck? I don't know. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Nora, additions to the agenda?
Two additions quickly to the personnel consent agenda. Under teachers, you'll see highlighted there, we received the early retirement request from D. Burt, effective at the end of this school year. And then if you scroll to the next page, please. We have a current para. Vanessa Coronado is a current para for us, and she's also going to be, with your approval, of course, working as a paraeducator for Makerspace. It's a short-term after-school program for 1 hour a day at Hoagland. So just those two additions, thanks.
Thank you. Would you enlarge that, please? Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second. Miller Hernandez, please use your microphone. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. The motion carries 6-0. It was Miller.
Yeah.
You guys say it at the same time?
We may have said it at the same time.
Okay, all I heard was him.
Well, hello. Thank you for
Next.
carrying on the meeting.
Oh, yes. Is this one going to work?
Yep.
All right. Miller it is.
Well, we have, it's the time of year where we recognize several different folks who work in our school systems. Last week was Bus Driver Appreciation Week, so I just have a statement to show our recognition and appreciation for the hard work that those folks do for us, and to highlight the fact that we do need more bus drivers and substitute bus drivers. So February 10th to 14th, 2020 was Bus Driver Appreciation Week. It takes a team of dedicated, trustworthy, kind, and responsible individuals to support students with love and compassion. Marshalltown Community School District is celebrating our bus drivers, monitors, supervisors, and shop personnel February 10th through 14th during Love the Bus Week. The MCSD Transportation Department has nearly 75 employees whose primary responsibilities are to safely transport students from their home to school and back every school day on buses that are well-maintained and reliable. It is also a great time to remind the community, as I said earlier, of the urgent need for school bus drivers and substitute drivers. And we also are recognizing Public Schools Week, which is coming up here.
Did you see the sticker on the back of her computer?
Oh, my gosh. Paulette, look at you. We also have National Public School Week coming up here in late February, and we have Nora Ryan is going to read a proclamation for that.
Did you want to bring your computer and show yours too?
Oh,
Yeah, I'd like to, I started this trend, I just want everyone. Let's keep it honest, folks. All right, bear with me, this is a little bit long, but it's really important, and I think it nicely stresses how we feel about public schools. So this is a proclamation from the House of Representatives from Missouri, so we're going to just kind of graciously take it. It's the other document with quite a bit of text. So bear with me. So expressing support for the designation of the week of February 24th through 28th, 2020 as Public Schools Week. Whereas public education is the foundation of a 21st century democracy. Excuse me. Whereas the nation's public schools are where students come to be educated as citizens of the United States. Whereas each public school prepares the nation's young people to contribute to the society, economy, and citizenry of the country. Whereas 90% of American children attend public schools. Whereas local, state, and federal lawmakers should prioritize support for strengthening the nation's public schools and empower local education leaders to implement, manage, and lead school districts in partnership with educators, parents, and other local education stakeholders and learning communities. Whereas local, state, and federal lawmakers should support such necessities as counseling, extracurricular activities, and mental health supports that are critical to help students engage in learning. Whereas inclusive and safe, high-quality public schools are where children learn to think critically, problem solve, and build relationships. Whereas public schools should provide an environment where all students can succeed beginning in their earliest years regardless of who they are or where they live. Whereas efforts should be supported to advance equity and excellence in public education and to implement continuous improvement in evidence-based practices. Whereas every child has the right to an education that helps them reach their full potential and attend schools that offer a high-quality educational experience. Whereas stable, predictable, and adequate funding for great public schools for every student in America is necessary to ensure that students have inviting classrooms and school libraries with up-to-date resources as well as well-prepared and supported educators. Whereas educators include teachers, paraprofessionals, and principals who provide a well-rounded and complete curriculum and create joy in learning. Whereas the nation's school buildings should have class sizes small enough to allow students to receive one-on-one attention and to access support services such as healthcare, nutrition, and after-school programs when needed. Whereas students, teachers, and professionals make the nation's public schools vital components of the community. Whereas parents and communities are working hard to improve educational outcomes for children across the country. And whereas the week of February 24th through 28th, 2020 would be an appropriate period to designate as Public Schools Week. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Marshalltown Community School District supports the designation of Public Schools Week. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there was a video, Amy, to play.
Today, we pledge our support for public education. American public schools educate 9 out of 10 students in the U.S., more than 50 million kids, regardless of ability, race, wealth, language, religion, or country of origin, to prepare them for the future endeavors. By pledging to support our nation's public schools, we also are pledging to strengthen the future of our country.
So join us in supporting all public schools, all public school employees during what is known as Public Schools Week.
I'm Randy Weingarten, President of the American Federation of Teachers.
I'm Nathan Mandel, the Executive Director of National PTA.
Hi, I'm Richard Wong, the Executive Director of the American School Counselor Association.
Hi, I'm Earl Franks, Executive Director of the National Association of Elementary School Principals.
Hi, this is Keith Kruger, CEO of COSIN, Consortium for School Networking.
Hello, I'm Dan Dominich, Executive Director of AASA, the School Superintendents Association.
Hello, I'm Lily Eskelson Garcia. I'm a 6th grade teacher and president of the National Education Association.
Extraordinary teaching and learning takes place every day in America's public schools.
Public Schools Week is an opportunity to show our commitment to our students and our communities, and for all of us to recognize the essential role of our nation's public schools. At its best, our public schools provide a ladder of opportunity, a place where young people develop the muscle of civic participation, a safe and welcoming place where our diverse country forges a common identity. Public education is indeed foundational to our democracy. Public Schools Week is also an opportunity to call attention to the great things happening in classrooms throughout America, such as the 21st Century Career and Tech Ed programs and community schools with wraparound services.
When we educate every citizen as we should, we will have a strong democracy.
Public education helps every student succeed. Last year, almost 85% of high school seniors graduated. This is the highest graduation rate we've seen, and it continues to grow every year. And every year, more and more students are enrolling in college. Public education works. Public education is making a difference for all of us.
Public schools open their doors to every child. They recognize the benefits of social, emotional learning, and they teach students the skills they need to succeed in college, in their careers, and in life.
COSN in particular wants to honor our technology leaders as they're trying to rethink what learning is in today's schools.
Public schools open doors for every child, regardless of zip code. Public schools recognize the importance of social, emotional development and provide a safe, nurturing environment where students can become effective, empowered learners. Today, there are more than 15 million students learning and growing inside our public school buildings. By supporting and investing in public schools, we are securing our country's future.
Our mission is to nurture and educate every student to their greatest potential so they can grow, prosper, and contribute to society in important and meaningful ways. Please join me and be public school proud.
Public education has literally lifted millions of people out of poverty and has given them a great start on life.
Today, our schools are doing better than ever before. I know, bold statement, but yes, better than ever before. We're reaching more students, providing more equitable and diverse opportunities, and personalizing learning so that students can succeed at the career path that is best suited for them. We're not perfect, but we continue to work at getting better every day.
So I just took the pledge, and I hope you will too. Go to publicschoolsproud.org and sign your pledge to support public schools, and join us February 24th through the 28th, 2020. Thank you.
I was good with all that except the snake. Moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of Tuesday, February 4th? Any items of note in personnel?
As I mentioned before, Ms. DeBert has submitted her application or request for early retirement effective the end of the year, and I just wanted to share a little bit about her history with the district. Dee started as a family and consumer science teacher back in 2005. From there, she went on to become an instructional coach at the high school for about 3 years. From here, she moved to the curriculum and professional development leader position. And in the last couple years, she became the curriculum and professional development leader specifically for college and career readiness. Without question, she has been the backbone of work-based learning and college and career readiness. She will be greatly missed, and it was an honor to spend my first few months here working with DeBert. Thanks.
Thank you. Looking at interagency agreements and contracts, we have an agreement for keynote speaker Mark Perna for April 8th in the amount of $6,000. We have an Old Creamery Theater agreement to perform at Franklin Elementary. We have an agreement with Doug Hansen to present and demonstrate pottery techniques and ceramic art at the high school. In open enrollments, we have 5 out for the remainder of this year. I believe that was explained to you in news and notes. And we have 6 out for the 2021 school year. Are there any items of note in bills? Any questions by board members on the monthly financial report? May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. McGinnis, Faltus. You need to understand that I have difficulty determining, if I don't look, who's doing this, so bear with us.
Obviously, I do too.
Well, if there's 2 of us, we try and keep each other straight. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. The motion carries 6-0. Anybody on the sheet, Sean?
I don't see anybody.
Okay. Dr. Jurgensen, would you and your crowd come forward?
I'll have to remind everyone to use your microphone as we proceed. I've brought a crowd, as Director Niblock says. We have Sabrina Russell, our instructional coach, and Angela Pelham, one of our social workers, Carrie Ellsbury, an ESSA social worker, and Mark Church, our counselor here this evening. And they're going to share some things from our ESSA plan with you tonight, which is our Every School Succeed Act plan.
I'm going to start off with one of the areas of our ESSA plan, which focused on looking at student data in regards with MTSS to help improve student scores. When we got our ISASP results back in the fall, our growth between 3rd to 4th grade was lower than we thought that it would be. And so we've put together some things to help work on that and improve that for this year for testing. So one of the things that we've focused on is really looking at the really great reading diagnostic and making sure that our students are grouped appropriately for the title reading services, and then going through that throughout the year at several checkpoints and adjusting groups as needed to make sure they're being served correctly. We've also included an MTSS block this year into the schedule, which has helped serve our ELL population, because now this year they're able to also receive Title I services if needed, along with their ELL services. Our grade level teams have been giving common formative assessments in math and tracking that data to make sure that students are receiving interventions that they need along the way, as well as enriching services for students who need that end of services. We're also going to be utilizing the practice tests more for the ISASP so that students can help build stamina for the testing and able to stay with it more during their testing. We'll also be utilizing test-taking strategies before the test and making sure that students are able to use the different tools that ISASP provides within its testing for students to help them do better. With our ESSA plan, we've also been implementing parts of it that focus on social emotional growth and well-being for our students. And so Carrie, Mark, and Angela are going to be speaking to some of those parts of our ESSA plan so that our students can also grow and be successful in those areas, which also lead to success for the whole child with their scores as well.
All right. Thank you for allowing us to spend some time with you. As part of our ESSA plan, we did determine, I'm the school counselor, and I have lots of students that I work with. And during that time, we found out that one of me was just not enough, and one of our social workers wasn't enough. We had so many students with needs that we decided, what can we explore to provide more opportunity? And we came up with the social worker, an additional one, to help us on a daily basis provide that opportunity. And so what has happened is we identify students that are of need, and then I can run small groups. The social workers can run small groups as well, and we get more of our students that are served. And so it provides me with the opportunity to provide more individual counseling as well as small group. And then for our other social workers can also do small groups at the same time. And that makes the opportunity to provide the needs for our students better. And I'll let Carrie explain more about what she does.
Hi again, I'm Carrie Ellsbury, and I was hired with the ESSA money for this year. Being a full-time social worker in the building allows me the opportunity to provide students with connectedness and a sense of community. Getting to see them every day, getting to know them, getting to understand their needs, I think helps provide a better response to them when they do have issues that arise. Partnering with teachers to provide needed collaborative problem-solving time. Conducting lunch in small groups, as Mark mentioned, where we can work on social skills, leadership skills, life skills, talk about if some of them have grief skills, they have trauma going on. Those are all issues that we can talk about and work on, either in a small group or, if necessary, one-on-one. Connecting with kids before and after school, during lunch and recess, being there when the kids don't have breakfast and the teachers don't have time maybe to go and get that. That's something that we can step in and help with. When kids come in and maybe they didn't have any sleep last night, that's something that we're able to address. Kids that won't get out of the minivan in the morning and mom is struggling to get them out, it's really nice when we're able to have that relationship with them because they see us every day, all day, so they'll walk in with us, usually. Engaging with parents before and after school is also a great opportunity. I think a lot of times we're so busy, we spend a lot of time talking to parents when there's a problem or an issue. I think it's really nice to be able to say, hey, today they had a great day, or today this is what we talked about and they're so excited about it, or today they were able to master this. And I think it's really nice for parents to be able to hear that. Also having the time to be able to send home emails or whatever, also with positives. Getting the kids involved, supporting their school. The kids love to make the posters for welcoming families at conferences and for the family learning centers. They spend time writing thank yous to teachers. Recycling, we do a recycling program that they like to be included in, including all the kids to make sure that they have pride in their school and that they're engaged throughout the day. One-on-one with the kids that are struggling emotionally so we can help them immediately so it doesn't escalate or so they don't shut down and they don't miss as much instructional time. Helping with families attain basic needs, whether it's financial counseling, whether it's getting coats, boots, hats. Angela can expand on that, but she also spends a lot of time referring them to necessary resources here in the community. Building trust and individual relationships with the kids. That just I can't even express to you how important that is for the kids, especially a lot of our kids, at least at Rogers, come from families that probably appreciate the extra help that we can give. This just touches a little bit on some of the things that we are working on that we've started to do, and Angela will talk a little bit about some of the positive results we are seeing at this time.
All right. Are we doing okay on time?
Sure.
Okay. So when we decided to bring Carrie on, we were trying to figure out how do we best come up with like a caseload for her of kids for her to work with. We decided to focus on the social and emotional categories of the SABRE screener. So this year in the fall, at the fall screening window, under just the social and emotional categories, we had 125 students who fell under one or both of those categories as at risk. After our winter screening, we are down to 102 students who are being identified as at risk under one of those categories. So Carrie's goal is to make weekly contact with at least 80% of those students. Consistently, she has been touching base or working with at least 95% of her caseload, so far exceeding our original goal for her, which is amazing. We are only a semester in with having her full-time at Rogers, but that data decreasing for SABREs has been one
real positive. The other one is from last fall to this fall, we've had a 54% reduction in students with minor behaviors and a 59% reduction with students who have major behaviors reported. So those are both wonderful trends to see as well. I think that's all I have for now.
I think that was my cue, thank you.
Yes.
How are we doing on time? Okay. Well, those are just some snippets of our overall ESSA improvement plan, and this team is very involved. We also have our entire faculty involved on school improvement. This is once again an era where our support systems are encouraging and actually requiring students support systems within buildings where all of the teaching faculty are involved on school improvement. And so during our in-service day today and other days in between, all faculty were involved on improving math, reading, social emotional, and also working on parent involvement and other types of school improvement to make Rogers a stronger school. We are a school that it not only looks for tomorrow, but we try to look down the road a number of years for kids and success. And I think that we're making some good progress at trying to ensure kids have a good positive outlook on learning and supporting their families in that regard as well. And we are looking for other improvements as well, academically, social emotionally, and so on. So we have our entire faculty involved in that school improvement regard. So we appreciate the time to present tonight, and I'm sure this group of 4 individuals would love to help answer some questions.
Questions from the board?
Thanks for the good numbers, the drop in at risk and the drop in bad behaviors. Good job. That's nice to hear. Mick, maybe this is a question for you. How do you see that that good data transferring to good academic score data?
Yeah, Angela kind of covered that. One of the things we're very concerned about are having kids actually engaging in learning, actually being consciously present and benefiting from the quality instruction they're receiving. So, that should be going simultaneously. Other districts across the country who have invested in social emotional have seen benefits, great benefits across the country. And in not only in the social emotional arena, but also in the academic arena. So those things tend to move simultaneous with each other. It's a little like, if you think of this, as a high school, if you have a great football team and they do well, everything else seems to go pretty well too. We just don't have a football team at Rogers yet. So we're looking for ways to help kids really engage with their school and play a part and have that connection so that they can benefit academically.
You indicated ST Math for some formative data.
Common formative assessments that the teachers do on each essential standard.
Okay, and you're using really great reading?
For diagnostics for reading.
Okay. Do you have other information on your data wall?
Not in front of us, but we've just done our data wall move, and then we'll have an MTSS meeting at the end of the month where we'll look at those students who aren't proficient on both tests that we look at for quadrant 1, and then we'll assess their services, and if they're not making the growth that they should be on progress monitoring, then we'll make plans for what we need to do to adjust for those students.
Other questions?
This isn't a question, but it's a comment. I visited the school right after you were hired, and I was really impressed with how quickly you connected with these kids, and they were checking in with her before they went home, and it just makes a huge difference. If they just know you care, they'll try a lot harder.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you for your time.
Good evening, ladies. It's nice to see all of you here.
The first thing we're going to be talking about is the high school spring play. It's going to be on April 3rd and 4th. There's over 70 kids in the whole production, and they are really looking for construction material donations and fake flowers. The next thing we're going to be talking about is MVP, which is Mentors in Violence Prevention. We are hosting a leadership summit for our MHS students and other area schools that are just starting the program. It's going to be at MCC on April 3rd all day. Sports. Today there's a basketball game away. Today was supposed to be the first day of track, but we didn't have school, so it's actually tomorrow. Tuesday there's bowling state qualifying. Wednesday is girls basketball regionals. Thursday is state wrestling, and we had 3 wrestlers make it. Friday is state wrestling and an away basketball game. So STEP is a group of students that learn the grant making process, and then we grant out the money to the community. So this year, the STEP students are currently in the process of reviewing the grant applications. We received 10 grant applications, and we have a total of $10,000 to give out for those applications.
So what we're going to be talking about is the MVP scholarship. One of our seniors from the Marshalltown High School was actually awarded the scholarship. So what MVP is it is the Multicultural Vision Program. It is a full tuition scholarship to Iowa State University, and a student has to make write an essay and compete against other students in the state of Iowa. And they are selected in a large variety of students with different backgrounds and different amounts of financial need. Any major can qualify for the MVP scholarship, unlike Science Bound, which is another full tuition. So the person who was awarded was Emily Alvaron, who is a senior and one of my friends. The following is a quote, if the next slide goes. If you would like to read that. I know that at the beginning, during November, December, when the applications were open, she was working really hard and was really stressed about getting this scholarship, since her major wasn't offered with Science Bound. However, she competed with other students with her essay, and she got it. And I was one of the first ones with her to review our financial aid awards, and she actually started crying when she got it. But I'm super proud of her, and I'm really proud of her. The next thing is the MEP scholarship. So MEP is Marshalltown Educational Program. It is offered by the MCC, the college here at Marshalltown. It is a 50% tuition scholarship for students. The requirements are a 2.75 GPA, a 95% attendance, and a short essay. Many students are automatically enrolled into this. So if they just submit an essay, they're automatically qualified for it. If students receive a full tuition scholarship for another college, they can also take the MEP scholarship and use this scholarship during the summer. Science Bound, on February 12th, the seniors presented their personal statements in front of Science Bound staff and parents. Our points talked about were the career project, reflections, intended major, how the program has helped us in the 5 years that we've been in it. So we were picked since 7th grade, and we've been in that program and will continue to be in the program until we graduate from college. The next step is oral justification, which is a PowerPoint presented in front of all of Science Bound, including the 8th graders and selected 7th graders. And we will all be working together in that PowerPoint. The Emerson trip is with one of the teachers, Mr. Carroll, who does engineering classes in IED. We will be taking a trip to Emerson, which will only be the seniors and juniors, since other freshmen and sophomores also take the classes. It's too many people, so we had to cut it down. We will be learning about what it takes to be in that company. We'll be talking to personnel and also our interests. The trip will be tomorrow. And the display case, the love locks made it to the student display in the main hallway, and French club students were working on it. Several clubs usually use the display case. I know that the language classes usually use it, and I know that yearbook also uses it. It's been empty for a while, so it's really cool that they've been using it again.
Well, today was the All Iowa Concert Band Festival. It was held at Johnston High School, and although we did not compete, we received great criticism and pointers. We left at like 6 in the morning, and then we came back, and I came from that to here. So it's been a long day. The Jazz and Show Choir Blast was held last Monday, February 3rd. It's always a nice thing to see how much work show choir puts in their outcome with their show. The Southeast Polk Jazz Fest was this last Saturday, the 15th. Both jazz bands were exceptional. Jazz 1 placed 4 out of 6, while Jazz 2 won an Outstanding Trumpet Award and placed 2nd out of 8 bands. Ensemble practice continues with approximately 30 solos and our ensembles to perform soon. So, as our final project proposal approaches, we will be working with our mentor who was assigned upon entering the SWE challenge to us. When we began looking at the different aspects of this challenge, we realized that when it came to displaying engineering, a better approach from Prairie in a Box would be to work our way to a rain garden because prairies have very, very deep roots.
What is SWE?
SWE is Society of Women Engineers. It's pretty neat. The robotics season is now officially over. After a hard battle, they placed 2nd out of 24 on the Connect Award, but unfortunately did not place top 12 and will not be moving on to state. Envirothon is preparing for state, for the regional competition that will lead to the state competition, and hopefully nationals. With this year's top team will consist of Trevor Ketchum, Derek Ketchum, Jasmine, Heather Junk, and myself. Since each team consists of 5 members plus an alternate, our alternate will be Carly Castillo. Each team member focus on an area. So Trevor will focus on soils, Derek on forestry, Jasmine on wildlife, specifically skulls and furs, Heather aquatics, and myself the history of wildlife, conservation methods, tracks, scat, reptiles, birds, and flowers/grasses. And then to finish, LOL met last Wednesday, February 12th, and we discussed the books we love with a fun/interactive questionnaire. And our book for March will be Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson.
Questions for our ladies? It's been a busy couple of weeks. Had lots to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So last meeting, as you'll remember, I had brought forward some Bobcat High School ready indicators. It still had tentative marked on it, actually, even though at that time I didn't think they were tentative. But as I continued to think about the indicators, and it was kind of a combination, as I shared with you before, of what's happening nationally, but then also making sure that it makes sense with our Bobcat ready indicators. I got thinking about the condition of completion of the core classes with no Fs, and thinking about the worst case scenario that a student could get D- on everything and be considered high school ready, which we all know is not the case. So I've simply adjusted that to really resemble what we have at the high school for that core class indicator, which is a C and above, in this case in the 4 cores, where it's 3 cores at the high school. Everything else is the same, and we'll be bringing that back to you through the consent agenda for approval at the next meeting. Then there's also a Bobcat High School Ready resolution similar to the one that you would have heard and approved for the high school, or for the Bobcat Ready, College and Career Readiness. And this particular resolution reads, whereas schools have a profound responsibility to ensure that our nation's 50 million students are college ready, career ready, and life ready, and whereas standardized test scores, which have traditionally been used as the sole indicator of college and career readiness, fail to portray a comprehensive picture of student potential, and whereas middle school students are engaged in a world that was hard to imagine a decade ago and need to be prepared with 21st century skills to participate in a future that they will help create. And whereas in Marshalltown Community School District, we believe that to demonstrate readiness, we must use a multi-measure approach that takes into consideration college and career readiness indicators. And whereas the existing one-score-fits-all approach is unfair to 21st century students, and whereas ESSA, the School Superintendents Association, launched a national campaign called Redefining Ready, which proposes new research-based metrics and indicators to more authentically and appropriately assess and demonstrate elementary, middle school, and high school graduates' readiness to survive and thrive in their future. Therefore, it is resolved that the Board of Education and Marshalltown Community School District adopt the framework of multiple readiness indicators proposed as the Bobcat High School Ready to more accurately assess students' readiness to succeed in high school, college, career, and life. So that resolution 2 will come back to you for action through the consent agenda at the next meeting, and then with those resolutions, we forward those onto the national organization so that they're aware that not only do we have college and career readiness indicators, but we will have been one of the few districts to formally adopt middle school indicators at this point.
Questions for Dr. Schutte at this time?
And that leads very cleanly into the strategic plan update, which we have a PowerPoint. And we're going to kind of take turns just talking about an indicator per goal, and then we'll continue to do this monthly until the end of the school year, when we're ready for an end of the year report out on the strategic plan. But obviously, the Bobcat Ready is a big part of that in terms of college and career readiness. As Jackie Wyatt, the high school principal, reported out at the end of last year, we had 118 of last year's seniors, or 29.1%, that had achieved the designation as Bobcat Ready for 2020, which is really this year's seniors are who we kind of built the platform on moving forward, particularly as it relates to the work-based learning components. Right now, it appears that we've got 188 students that have qualified, so that's jumped up to 43.5%. And we would anticipate that to continue, hopefully to grow, especially as we're able to build out more opportunities in work-based learning for students to get credited there. As you know from earlier this year, we were nationally recognized as a result of how we're using the metrics to create dashboards related to students' attainment of these indicators. You've, the last 2 meetings, had the Bobcat High School Readiness Indicators presented to you, and we'll be establishing a similar dashboard and monitoring system there. At the middle school, it'll be more predicated on quarterly reporting versus semester reporting at the high school, because most of the classes are all on a semester, year-long basis. Dr. Stevenson has been working actively with SIAC for over a year now in collaboratively developing some life-ready indicators. And part of that work will then be trying to figure out how we can measure attainment of those life-ready indicators as well. As far as the metrics that we had identified under the area of student achievement, we've shared data with you the last few years that has shown consistent either increase or stability in the graduation rate. I think compared to 10 years ago, it's actually up 10% from where it was at that time. And especially in the last 3 to 5 years, we've had significant drops in the dropout rate as well. Looking back 10 years back, it wasn't too dissimilar to where we're at currently, according to the state. So we'll take a little closer look at that to try to provide you with some trend lines on that one. And hopefully we'll be presenting you as well, at least at year's end, with the post-secondary completion rates, at least as identified by the National Clearinghouse. Essentially, our rates very closely mirror the national demographic, which is meaning that about 80% of our kids share at the end of their senior year. They have the intention of going on to a post-secondary institution. About 60% of those kids actually show up. And then about right around 40 or a little less than 40 for our district actually complete within a 6-year period some form of post-secondary attainment. The governor's quest with Future Ready is to have 70% of all Iowans with some form of post-secondary degree or credential. And so I think that's a very viable challenge for us to work towards as well. Any questions on that particular section? Lisa.
We're all just talking for a couple minutes, correct? Okay, so on the last page, Amy, before you went to that, I'm sorry, on the last document that you had open. Thank you. So today's a good example. Today was an all-day professional district learning day. We have about 14 of those during the school year in various formation. Sometimes it's parent-teacher conferences, sometimes it's teachers learning in their buildings or learning at district. But a lot goes into that whole process, and I just thought it would be good for you to see the staff development goal and how we, a little peek into how we do that work. And so those 4 tenets or beliefs that we have are kind of the big rocks of the work that we are investing our time and dollars in, because we truly think that that's what's going to help us accomplish our goals. So you'll notice a lot of emphasis on curriculum-based learning. We think that not only helps the students, but it helps keep our teachers because they feel supported with quality resources and training. SEL work, social emotional learning, you've heard a lot about. That was what Mick and his team presented tonight. We've also, as a district, committed to professional learning communities, and I've been in this game in a few places where we've had PLCs, and I have never been more proud of what we're doing in Marshalltown, because we really have everyone involved in a professional learning community. And I think it's easy to catch the low-hanging fruit sometimes, like, well, the high school math teachers or the 3rd grade teachers, but we have everyone. So if it might be a team of 2, and they're the reading intervention team, or it might be, a team of 16 ELA teachers at the high school. But nonetheless, we want everyone to feel like they're part of a team and be in that training philosophy. And then the last thing is equity, and I put equity last, but I see it more as a foundation. So everything that we're doing is out of a lens of how can we make our systems supportive to all of our learners across the spectrum. And then if you click, Amy, on that professional learning plan, so this is like a 9-page or so document that I won't read you or read to you, but the first 6 or 7 bullets are state mandated things that we have to address. So does the district's professional development plan address blank, blank, blank? And those are assurances that Theron signs off on each fall. And the curriculum and professional development leaders, principals, and I, Matt, we plan, Nora, also with secretaries and others, are planning professional learning that matches what the state is telling us we have to do in code. But more importantly, if you scroll down through those 7 pages, you'll start to see how those things match with our mission and vision and how they connect to our key metrics of success and things that we're looking to move more towards the positive side as we plan and prepare for professional learning. And at the very top of that first page, sorry, everyone's getting sick here. If you click on the 1920, so this is a gigantic spreadsheet that I did not create. This is a little above my skill set, but it's very tab or all along the bottom, you'll see tabs for every single group in the district. And this is a living document that at any time staff members, you can't see it for some reason. But if you are an art teacher or a school counselor or secretary, you can look and see, this is my year at a glance, this is what we'll be working on. And it just shows thank you. It shows our commitment to recognizing a balance between district PD, building PD, and then also staying true to some of the things we had in contract, like giving teachers time for grading. Today they had time for conference preparation because parent teachers are coming up in a week or so, 2 weeks from today. So you'll see that throughout our professional development plan also. And then at the end of every professional development day, they get a nice email in their inbox. We ask the same questions every time that let them gauge on a 1 to 4 scale how well today's learning matched or met their needs. And then we regroup as a team the next week. I share those results with the admin, principals, and also the TLC teams so we can get better because teachers are very honest with us about stuff they liked and stuff they did not like and why. And that allows us to kind of plan for moving forward about what we need to do a better job at. Do you have any questions about professional development or professional learning?
I think seeking that feedback is a really powerful piece because we talk a lot about differentiating our work with students, and sometimes the differentiation of the work with the adults or the teachers doesn't happen unless you ask them what's working and what's not related to that professional development. So I think from early on in our tenure, we've started to gauge that every single time that we devote time to professional development, and the team, particularly curriculum team and administrative team, make adjustments accordingly.
Do you have something that you're planning on telling us, or?
I was just up here to enjoy the view.
And Matt has been a really solid partner in this process, especially with the paraeducators. So we know that, there are 140 or so of them. They're not a homogeneous group either. And so we're getting there with that group, trying to provide meaningful learning for them during these days also. This morning, they had a makeup day where they worked with Matt, and generally the AEA supports us quite a bit too in that work. So sometimes teams are working, like Mick mentioned, on their ESSA plan. So if they have state-required PD they have to do, and sometimes we have some local control over what we can do also. Do you want to add anything about professional learning?
No, I think you covered it all.
Thanks, Matt.
And I think another group is the secretaries that we've been providing professional development. Nora primarily has been heading that up over the course of this past year, which was something that wasn't happening with much frequency. So I think that's been well received as well.
Where do the bilingual specialists fit in? Are they?
Right. So right now we have, I think, around 14 or so bilingual language assistants throughout the district. And currently they're going through professional learning with the special education paraeducators. So it's not a perfect fit. And Rachel and I have tossed around what would be more meaningful for them next year. So we'll probably survey them and get a feel for that, what their needs are, because some of what they do overlaps what special education paras do, but not everything.
So
And
for
some
instance,
go ahead.
For instance, the content that we've been going through today was about understanding child's brain development and how their behavior is influenced by different variables in their environment and in their life. So we thought it was a good content for them to be part of.
Other questions?
You want to just jump into your,
I think too, I was just going to say too, that I think sometimes I just want to give my team so much credit because we essentially pull off like a full day conference, like a full day workshop like the state would do for over 420 some teachers. If everybody comes to work, that's how many we'd have. And then we have another, if paras are there that day, that's another 150 or so people. So we're at the AEA, we're at every library, every space, conference rooms, boardrooms, Raycom sometimes. Like we're just all over Marshalltown finding MCC, finding learning spaces for people to meet and feel, like they have a comfortable space to learn and they have a great reason to be at work that day. So it's a huge undertaking that it seems like, oh, well, that's only once a month. It's just the third Monday of the month. Well, right, but believe it or not, we're already digging in for March 30th planning right now because whatever the plans are have to be vetted with principals and vetted with coaches, and then we pull back together and try to get stuff out a week to staff, week ahead, and then the week after we're reviewing data and looking at feedback and planning again. And so I don't know how we ever did it on Wednesdays once a week, but just getting ready for 8 hours once a month is a huge undertaking. Sorry, Matt, now it's really your turn.
No, it's okay. So Amy, if you'll click on strategic plan and continue to scroll, please. One more. There we go. Oh, back one, please. Thank you. So this is really the area that, I focus on supporting along with the curriculum department and Lisa's assistants. In this strategy area, you've heard a lot about the social emotional work we've been doing. And really here's, the crux of it, is we continue to work on that collaborative problem-solving approach, trying to give our teachers, our paraeducators, and our staff members in our schools more resources and more tools to use when working with kids. PBIS, we want to make sure that all kids understand what's expected of them in school and that we're acknowledging those behaviors when we're seeing them. When we're not seeing them, we need an opportunity to reteach them and help them learn what we expect to see of them in school. The social emotional screening process that you heard Rogers talk a little about earlier called SABRS, which is the Social Academic and Emotional Behavior Risk Scale. SABRS helps us get on the proactive side. And how do we identify kids before things get so bad that when we're starting to intervene with them, they're in crisis mode? And so teachers complete 3 times a year this survey about all their students and what they're seeing, and then the survey indicates whether you're at risk or not at risk for certain kinds of behaviors. Using that survey, then our school counselors, our social workers, and our teams in our buildings are able to become more proactive in getting to kids earlier and trying to head off some of those escalating behaviors. The guidance curriculum, positive action, we've talked about in the past. This is our first year in adoption with that. We've picked a new guidance curriculum because we needed to find something that was better meeting the needs of our kids, trying to address the kinds of situations that we have here in Marshalltown, which is often unique compared to other schools. And the counselors have talked about really positive things once they're getting used to this curriculum.
many of our board members have seen that in action, I think both at Hoagland and Franklin and maybe Rogers. So.
One of the things, if you're reading any of the legislation going on at the state level, they talk about therapeutic classrooms. Actually, our partnership with Four Oaks is one of the models that they're building off of, as we were one of the first places in the state of Iowa to use therapeutic classrooms. So that's real exciting. It serves a real small percentage of students, but it has a really good impact on the students as long as we're very thoughtful on who we're serving there. So. We've also expanded some of our partnerships. So when I began doing this work, we only worked with Center Associates at that time as our mental health organization. And now we have 4 mental health organizations that we have agreements with who come into our schools and see our kids, and we can make referrals to. And I'm real excited that we've been able to continue to have every school having their own nurse, because many of our kids have medical needs, lots of our kids have health needs, and these are really the professionals to support those.
Questions for Mr. Kretzinger?
Can you tell me what SABRE stand for again?
Yeah, social, academic, and emotional behavior risk scale. Just kind of
So
rolls
this
off
is
the
a-
tongue, doesn't it?
Like a survey they take?
Yeah, it's a 19-item survey they take.
The teacher does on behalf.
Oh, the teacher fills it out on behalf of the child?
Correct.
Social, academic, emotional behavior risk.
Scale.
And then these therapeutic classrooms, would that be something like in each school, or is it still like we have?
This is our Four Oaks program.
Oh, it's just
Yeah.
the one classroom for a district?
Yeah, we always talk about it as Four Oaks as a program. The true model is a therapeutic classroom, and so that's the language you're hearing in the legislation. But, for those of you newer to the board, Four Oaks is an agency we've worked with to develop 3 classrooms to support kids between grades of kindergarten and 12th grade. So they tend to be some of our highest need students, both with their level of disability and behavior, as well as the mental health conditions influencing their behavior.
So where are your Four Oaks classes?
2 floors right below us.
Oh, they're all here then?
Yes.
Okay.
This is all a good review, Matt, thank you for this. I really liked what the folks from Rogers had to say that, backed up what they're doing with the actual numbers and improvement. And so, while I like seeing what you're doing, what I'm even more interested in is how it's working.
Sure.
And so I'd love to see, in terms of decreasing at-risk students, decreasing behavior, decreasing chronic absenteeism, I'd love to see those numbers and if what you are doing is actually having impact on those 3 things.
Okay,
And so-
I'll be happy to bring that here.
And to piggyback on that, I think also, what Rogers kind of proved a little bit today is, that full-time social worker in each school, what the difference it's making at the school, and hope to see maybe academically as well, not just at the at-risk level, but with the academic. That's just a big push on maybe thinking about that full-time social worker in all of our elementaries to help with that.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity, especially since we have some outside funding to support that position, to see what kind of difference it may or may not have. As I think some of the board members know, at one time there were full-time social workers, I believe, at all elementaries, and through budget cuts, those went to half-time probably 6 years ago maybe, or 7 years ago. So it definitely is something that our elementary principals have indicated they have interest in, and something that we talked about when Lisa had presented the at-risk plan.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, I was going to tell you too, if you had that same question, which I'm guessing you did for the slide before that I talked about, if you click on that professional learning plan and go down towards the end, like pages 8, 9, and 10, you'll have those types of numbers that I think you're asking Matt for. In particular, like on page 8. So those surveys I was telling you about, we had our baseline. So you can look like a baseline of 3.0 or 3.4. Teachers really like grading time and conferences. That's a 3.5 average. Yeah, so you'll kind of see where we set those. We did the strategic action plan where we set the baselines, and then how every year I'm measuring if we're moving towards that. And if you go a little bit farther down, Amy, I believe we're on the same page. Yeah, so that's like our teacher retention data, not to steal Nora's thunder, but that's in there. And then this is those 4-point surveys of, these were our baselines last year, so then we'll look at the end of this year and average those out too, and hopefully people are moving more towards the 4.0 than the 3.0.
We can't click on it, it's not a hot link.
I know, I don't know why sometimes that happens and doesn't. I can email it to you, or we can make it.
I was able to pull it up at home, Mike, so maybe it's
the PDF of it.
maybe it's just what we see here.
So at home, it was a hot link? Then
It was.
It was, okay.
I pulled it up at home. Thank Thank you. Just got it.
There's a lot of numbers for me to remember. I don't know if I can.
Communication.
Back one. There you go.
So tonight I have several small statistics from our Facebook page, which Facebook can, you can analyze kind of whatever data you want really from your Facebook page. It's pretty cool, but it's a little overwhelming because you can literally analyze almost everything. I determined that it was probably most useful to look at reach. In other words, how many eyeballs are seeing the good news that we put out on our Facebook page about the district. Of course, the numbers you see there, I did not count things like early out or 2-hour delay posts, things that we want to have lots and lots of shares and likes, but not because they're necessarily, good news stories or anything like that. So that being said, our total page likes, and this is for the Facebook page itself, is 6,470. You'll also hear about followers, and that's pretty close to the same number. For some reason, a few folks might decide to like our page but not follow our page, which means that our posts do not show up on their timeline. I do not know why some folks like our page but don't follow us. That would be interesting to dig into. But it's not a very high number of disparity between that 6,470. That number is up 151 unique likes since I started in November. So that I'm not sure what the growth rate was like prior to me coming here, but 151 likes in a couple months' time is, I would say, pretty good. The average reach per positive post, and again, that is excluding things like early outs, delays, cancellation, notifications, and other types of things that show up on our Facebook page, we usually get about 2,900 likes, about 2,900 likes on our page, or on our posts. Our viewer activity, this is something I find interesting because, again, I see running our social media as a big part of that is getting stuff in front of people when they're most likely to be looking at their screens. And so according to the activity data that I saw, a lot of people who follow our page and like our page are most active in looking at our page around 10 a.m. in the morning and around 5 to 6 o'clock at night. And so I've been posting at about 4:30 p.m. usually when I have a story out for the day. I'm going to plan to shift that to match that 5 to 6 p.m. time window a little bit closer. And then also, especially on the weekends, I think for stories that run on the weekend, I will shift over to doing it toward 10 a.m. I have been doing it more toward 11 a.m. or noon. So that's a little bit of just adjusting to the data. And then I also put in there, in case anyone's interested, the our most popular likes. And I think that the announcement of our 3 wrestlers who are going to be representing the Bobcats in Des Moines on the wrestling mats are going to be up there in that 4,000, reaching up to 5,000 area of reaches. But yeah, Derek Raggi, our new head baseball coach and special education teacher, got an awful lot of likes. And then you can see there too, I think, just in that selection of the top 4, you see Vic Helberg's recognition. Vic Helberg, for those of you who may not know, is the owner of Helberg Jewelers on Main Street here. And also the Lenahan students who completed the Teach Them to Swim program. Those are great examples of the community partnerships that we have as a school district. And I have many more stories that I'm able to tell about those partnerships, but I really love when I can tell that story too. Not just the achievements of our teachers and staff and students, but also of how we partner with others in the community. So,
Questions for Adam?
Do you, okay, I know all the schools have Facebook, not all of them. Most of them have a Facebook, because I know Rogers doesn't. can you see those posts to share with the district or not? Because I know I have follow other elementaries in Lenahan and Miller in the high school, and
Well, because there's so much that happens at each building, those are typically run from the building
from the
level.
building.
I can amplify them by sharing on the district-wide Facebook page. And I can certainly also consider the role of my involvement in those pages, but I think in general, the schools who do have pages do a good job of sending out things like newsletters, information for parents, things like that on their Facebook pages, which I'm really happy about because it lightens my load a little bit on the social media side of things to have such good information flow from those Facebook pages. Is that?
Yeah, just thought maybe, I guess I follow some of them, and some of those schools have like highlights of their own. That would be nice to share.
Okay, yeah.
As far as for people I'm just thinking like family engagement, like Woodbury had a huge turnout. I mean, it was over 200 parents that were there. And I didn't see a post, but just putting that as a highlight in our district kind of will encourage other parents to attend maybe other family nights at other schools, seeing that other families are being engaged and how much fun they had, and there's pictures and just thought.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Pauline, are you resources?
I think I'm resources. Last but not least is the strategic goal of resources. In order for our educators, it's on. Oh, sit close. In order for our educators and our administrators to implement the great things that they're doing and all the programs and such, we have to have adequate resources in order to support those things that we're trying to do. So resources is something that we work on continually. There's never really a finish point. So we work on financial planning and a 5-year forecast continually throughout the year. Some of the other things that we keep our eye on is our general fund solvency ratio, working to improve that over time. We've made some pretty significant change to our insurance benefits in order to reverse some trajectories and adequately reserve our self-funded plan. We've developed several replacement cycle budgets for the district for our Chromebooks, technology, other technology, buses, small vehicle fleets, and also working currently and always, on our capital improvement plan, particularly since the legislature extended the sales tax funding last year. That will give us more opportunities to take advantage of that sales tax revenue. Another strategy for improving operational efficiency and effectiveness, the big thing that we're working on right now is implementation of an automated time tracking system. We've also implemented an online payment system called RevTrack in the last year and a half or so, and I just got the notice for calendar year 2019, we had over $127,000 that was paid through RevTrack. So that's a really good thing for the district. That alleviates all the cash handling within the buildings. It's all electronic, so that's something we're always looking to improve. Always evaluating our internal controls and cross-training, and I guess one of the other things that we did for improving effectiveness and efficiency is we try to email out our direct deposit stubs to all of our employees several days in advance of payroll so that they have an opportunity to review their pay stubs and pose any questions or concerns they might have before payday actually hits. So that's been helpful. Any questions on resources?
Thank you. All out the books. Do we have our staff join us?
I think they just need your moral support.
I had to be up here last time. Get up here.
I'm sure you'll have comments to make. Okay, we're on habit 7. Sean?
Yep. So habit 7, ask for special treatment. In this example, the school board member has a daughter who's a senior in high school, and he would really like for her to get into a specific math class because he thinks it would be great for her college application. And so in order to do what he can to make sure that happens, he calls the high school principal and sort of asks her if the schedules are out for next year because he wants to see if his daughter got into the class. I guess kind of as a way to ensure that she gets into the class without directly asking that she gets put into the class. And the principal says, no problem, we'll take care of it. And he thinks he's done a great thing for his daughter. And so I guess, you know, the issue here is kind of the tension between, you know, being a parent and wanting to do what's best for your kid, or what you think is best for your kid, and the school board member, and, you know, putting your thumb on the scale to benefit your kid. The author doesn't necessarily seem to have any great solution for this particular problem. You know, because there are instances where you need to stand up as a parent, where you need to call the school and you need to stand up for your kid. But you need to do everything you can, I think, to avoid not only actually, you know, actively interfering, but also having the appearance that you're getting some special benefit that nobody else gets. And, you know, probably the best suggestion that he has is when it's something like that, if you have a spouse or a partner or somebody else who can call the school on behalf of the kid, then maybe they should do that.
Okay. Other comments? Okay, then we'll move on to section 2, which is entitled Terrible Board Teamwork. And Paulette has habit number 8.
All right, the scenario here talks about making sure we cultivate an atmosphere of mutual respect. And this is, I think, in the 4th hour of a very long board meeting. And it sounds like the board members are getting kind of tired and
Eyes glazing over.
And so following a presentation, one board member gives some comments afterwards that seemed to annoy another board member. And the other board member rolled their eyes and made an exasperated facial expression. So the first board member then calls that second board member out on the carpet.
And we're off and running.
Yeah, am I boring you? Yeah, so, let's see, and then he says, well, Marcia, can you just get to your point? It's been a long meeting. You reply without thinking. So that kind of spiraled the whole meeting out of the long meeting out of control. It's much easier to conduct business in an atmosphere of mutual respect. The comments made in that fashion and the eye rolling just kind of exasperated the situation, I guess. They talk about what your options are. You know, it's important that people feel like they can share their comments in regards to items that are being discussed at the table, but just make sure that we're doing it in a respectful way. And their solution was kind of rephrasing it as, you know, thanks for bringing up this issue. As we look at the issue, perhaps we might want to also consider some other things rather than, as they say, we learned in second grade not to make weird faces and such. Get your point across while maintaining a respectful relationship with your fellow board members, and how important that is.
I think that's one of those things that this board's worked very hard at doing, is allowing lots of information to be put out on the table. And discussion pro or con. We've not had 7-0 votes constantly. We've had some split votes, but we just know that when we leave the board meeting, we're all sharing the same thing.
I think one of the statements in there relative to the scenario was there's a difference between what you say and how you say it. And sometimes it's not so much, you know, sometimes it's hard to hear certain things, but depending on how it's said, it can be taken, you know, negatively instead of being constructive or what have. So.
Other comments?
I'm substituting.
You're substituting for Bob.
So habit number 9, speaking for the board, was a scenario where the board members had been invited to attend a student singing performance at a school, and as it turned out, only one board member showed up, and the superintendent wasn't there, and there weren't other district officials. So unbeknownst to the board member, the principal who's introducing and welcoming everybody invites for that board member to come to the stage to say a few words. And it starts off really good in that the board member thanked him for thanked the school for the invitation and the principal, and then told the crowd that they wanted him to know that the school board is committed to helping children in the district reach their potential through an enriching and instructional program that includes the arts. And then they went on to say that the school board was also committed to providing increased funding for music, expanding the band program, and hopefully in the future building a new auditorium. So where the line got crossed was moving from a pretty abstract comment related to the mission and helping all kids with an enriched education to all of a sudden kind of pushing an agenda that board member was in favor of, but not necessarily all board members. So, and the moral of the story is, you know, being careful about how and what you say to the public for fear that they may take what you say, which might be a personal opinion, as the opinion of the board. And so essentially they just said you have to really walk a fine line related to that. And obviously, you know, you can talk about facts and things that have that you know to be fact and things that have happened at the board table, but when it starts to go into personal preference, that's where it kind of gets a little dicey. And then one of the suggestions was, you know, it's probably a good idea for at least one of the district administrators to be present at such events when they get invited, because more than likely that person versus the board member is one that's going to be asked to say a few words, whether it be the superintendent or what have. And the other is, you know, a lot of times for this reason, boards identify someone from the board, which is usually the board president, to kind of be the spokesperson for the board when those types of events take place. And I think that's pretty much it.
Comments? I think that in a community our size, that everyone who is a board member is known. And you're known as a board member. So no matter where you are, you're a board member, especially if a school issue comes into the conversation. Dr. Schutte and I were both, just to give you an example of how that works, Dr. Schutte and I were both at a funeral this weekend, at the same funeral. And in one of the individuals who spoke, we were recognized as the superintendent and the board president. And we were both there as individuals, not representing the district in that capacity. So no matter what you do, you're a board member.
Including online. I have to say it. I have to say it.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right.
What did you say?
Including online.
Oh,
We have a lot of issues with, social media and things like that with our staff and other folks. So it's always just good to remind us that even online, we represent the district.
I know in my line of work in the schools, that's so hard sometimes. Because I always want to say I'm on my MICA hat, but they don't look at me that way more than half the time. It's a board member in the room, in the school.
Other comments?
I like the piece they put in there about how the principal could benefit from some training in that example too, because the principal shouldn't have put the board member on the spot like that.
Right.
And I just think sometimes we have new administrators or new principals who might not know how to navigate. Like, they want to be gracious and have you come, but they might not know how to navigate those situations. So it's a learning time for everyone.
Well, I actually kind of felt that way about Sean's example, where a school board member asked for that particular favor, because that puts a lot of people in an awkward place. The daughter, if she does not do well in the class, the teacher, if she doesn't do well in the class. The administrator, if she was supposed to have been fitted into another class for some reason that we don't know about. It just is a very awkward thing to do.
Okay, Sarah.
Okay, I have terrible habit number 10, build coalitions.
Can you turn your mic on?
It's on, not close enough. Build coalitions. So this scenario is where two board members seemingly routinely meet up for a drink after their board meetings to discuss how they were successful in getting the board to vote the way they wanted them to during the board meeting, and then to plan how they're going to sway the board members to vote at the next board meetings as well. So while they're having drinks, they work on their strategy to make this all happen. And really, when going through all of the Plan B options, there's not a good way to navigate this one other than to not do that for so many reasons. One of them is to not give the public the impression that decisions affecting their kids are being made behind closed doors. This can destroy the community's confidence in public education. And the Plan B that they suggest was to avoid lobbying fellow board members for their votes outside of scheduled board meetings. So that one's pretty easy, I think.
Questions, comments? Pretty straightforward. Karina?
Okay, terrible habit number 11, abstained on tough votes. So this situation is about an election day, call for bond for issue election. It lasts about 2 hours. listening to speakers about the pros and cons, about a proposed bond issue to election that will raise property taxes for school construction. The bond had been working out for a year already, planned for a year. The board had already heard arguments from both sides, and the board was evenly divided. So this person had to come up with a decision and could not. So this person chose to abstain from that because couldn't come up with a decision. So because of that, so Plan B was it appropriate? So an appropriate abstention would be conflict of interest, and that's actually a legally and ethical required for somebody who has conflict of interest to abstain from voting. And if not sure, obviously visit your president and or legal counsel for that if that's something that you feel that needs to be required. As far as abstaining that. Well, some of the options that this situation put here that this board member could have taken was asked to put the vote off until a later meeting, vote with the majority, so your vote will not really decide the issue, make an informed decision that you believe is the best interest of the children of the district, be absent the day of the vote, and tell your fellow board members that you did not know what to do, so you flipped a coin. None of those options, only one of those options is the best option, which is option 3, and it's more appropriate, considering that you had 2 hours and to listen to all the pros and cons. You knew that you had the time to ask the questions and had the time to gather information, and also seek for any additional information that you would like. So all the others would not have been an option for a board member. It would make you a horrible board member if you picked any other options, considering the scenario that they've already had provided them with all the information needed. It actually also gave them the opportunity to ask the questions. So make an informed decision that you believe is in the best interest of the children of the district would be your best advice when you are dealing with a decision that you are puzzled in your mind to decide. You always go back to think what's the best for the children in our district as a whole rather than one or the other school, so it's more like a whole. And then I kind of underlined right now something that really stood out to me, and as I was reading it, as why, I became a board member, but also why, I was voted in to be a board member is, my job is to inform myself of decisions that are being made in this table, and to ask questions that I need to fully understand and vote on decisions that are going to make a big difference. And then also to seek public input. I'm always asking or just wanting to question or not even question, just make the conversation and get feedback on some of the things that are going on in the district. Also discuss an issue with your fellow board members. And that's something I feel like we don't have that much time because we come, we do the job, and we go. But I would like to reach out if we could more on some of the issues of what do you think about this or that. I'm not saying we lack on that, but I don't think there's much room for discussion sometimes. And then ultimately decide. I don't think in the 2 years that I've been here, I don't think there's been a lot of split like this situation. But there has been some concerns, that we come together and obviously vote. But I will say 6 of the things that, really would narrow down, our job as board members would be to study, ask, listen, express your thinking, think really hard, and then make the decision, would be. And then superintendent lessons learned. The only thing that really stood out with me is just to make sure that all your board members are informed, and you do a great job on that. So I feel like everybody who comes and presents makes a pretty good informed presentation on things that we need to know and always follow back. So this person abstaining was not a good idea, and it will make you a horrible board member if you did the other things. So I think this was actually a great issue for me because I have had to abstain for several things because I am also a school partner in the agency that I work in, so it kind of fit in pretty good.
Other comments? Where do you now?
All right, number 12, be decisive, don't compromise. The agenda item is deciding how to run summer school for the year, and there are 4 plans put in place, and you did your research, you listened, you read all the materials, you took notes, like you've made your decision, and you're sticking to that decision. You really decide to kind of stick to your guns. Plan 2 is the best. And I think the problem here is that you refuse to compromise. You want to be seen as a decisive leader. And, if you compromise, that shows that you're weak. So you refuse. And obviously, the lesson is there are times when we have to compromise. That, sticking to your guns just to stick to your guns isn't, or compromising isn't always a weakness. In fact, it can be really quite a strength. And so some options here that the author here sees as appropriate would be, reaching out to board members and see, like, since you believe that option number 2 is the best, asking, what do you need from option 2 in order to see it as viable? Or, could you incorporate some of the other plans ideas that were really attractive to the other board members into your option 2 to make it more attractive to them? Or the other option that they say, could help your, plan B would be suggest a small pilot version of plan 4, which was the most popular one, not your favorite one, but suggest a small pilot version first. So like I said, the lesson really is, sometimes we have to compromise. It's not a weakness. You may have to give up 1 or 2 features that aren't really important to you in order to retain the features of a plan that really are important to you. But don't ever compromise, on your principles or what you see are, the goals of the district. And then finally, really, it's, I like the sentence on page 62 that says, the bottom line is that the district's position on an issue is what a majority of the board wants, not what you as a single person want. So, as the board or as part of the district, we have to think about the district as a whole, not just what we want or what we think is best, but as what the board or the district sees as best. That's all.
Comments? Well, for our next meeting, we have Mike on 13, Lisa on 14, Jan on 15, Bob on 16, Matt on 17, and I have 18. Questions? Okey-doke. Thank you very much for your participation. Okey-dokey, Mr. Biddelli.
On Thursday, February 6th, the district received bids for the Marshalltown Racket Complex. There were 3 construction companies that submitted bids. The low credible bidder appears to be Garland Construction, whether it was on the base bid or any of the 5 alternates. We've shared with them that we'd be recommending to the board this evening to table taking action on the bids in light of the city's reconsidering the possibility of partnering with us on part of this project. And so we would anticipate that the city would take action on whether to approve this as one of their projects in the near future at their March 23rd regular city council meeting. So we tentatively would be planning to possibly have a special board meeting solely for the purpose of acting on these bids on March 24th. And looking at the bids, as you can see, the base bid for the 6 new tennis courts as well as for the 3 pickleball courts with or without lights came in a bit above what the projected cost was going to be. But with the alternate bids, particularly as it relates to the parking lot and the reconstruction of the 8 existing courts into 6 new courts with restrooms, with storage facility, came in significantly under. Without partnership, we'd likely, be solely recommending the construction of the 6 courts and looking to possibly come back on the other parts of the project, either with or without partnership down the road. My concern, particularly in looking at the other bids on the alternates, is that I'm fairly convinced that if we were to need to go out to rebid, that we'll see significantly higher bids for the reconstruction of the existing courts. So we would, again, anticipate likely calling a special meeting for March 24th to take action on bids once we know the city's current position on things.
The alternates are significantly lower than our estimated costs. So, yeah, I don't think they would come in even lower on a subsequent bid either. Any questions for Dr. Schutte? I have a motion to table the decision on bid approval for the Marshalltown High School racket facility until a special meeting on Tuesday, March 24th at 5 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Heitman, Miller. Yay.
I heard them both.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. The motion carries 6-0. Moving on to policies.
So for the policies that are coming back to you for a first reading, all of these policies, with the exception of 401.9, which was the employee political activity, as you'll remember, we had some discussion at the table, and we added the statement while under contract to that particular policy. So that will need to come back again. But all of the rest of these policies that we reviewed at the last meeting have maintained they have not had any changes made to them since you last saw them. Do you want me to read through all those?
No, let's take the ones that we need to adopt first. 303.5, 303.8, 405.9, 407, 3E1. May I have a motion to adopt and waive the second reading?
So moved.
Heitman, Hernandez. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. The motion carries 6-0. Now we have the rest of these that were on last time are to be amended. So it'd be 905.1R1, 905.1R2, 905.1R3, 905.1E1, 905.1E2, and 905.1E3. May I have a motion to amend these policies and waive the second reading?
Move for approval.
Second.
Miller, Faltus, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. The motion carries 6-0.
4019, should that come back as a second reading?
No, every time there's a change made, it needs to come back as a first reading.
Okay.
So 4019 will come back as a first reading because,
So we should have put that back in review for purposes of today's meeting.
no, it was a first reading because we talked about it at the last meeting. So that's when it was reviewed.
So you just bring it back
So
a
you bring it
second,
back
a second time as
a
first
second
reading.
time as a first reading until there are no changes.
Okay,
And then you,
okay.
because it would need to come back again if we didn't waive the second reading.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're to 9055 and 9056, Jan.
Oh, those were just struck.
Yeah, the recommendation.
The recommendation is to delete them. May I have that motion from you?
Make a motion to delete. I'm sorry.
That'd be 9055 and 9056.
9055, 9056.
Second.
McGinnis, Miller, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carries, they are deleted. Any items of note, Adam, on communications?
No Bobcat wrestlers, and they, three that qualified, and also, we thinking about our bowling teams as they attempt to qualify for state. They've had a heck of a season so far.
Okay. Looking at reminders, we have preschool and kindergarten registration coming up on February 29th. We will have that special board meeting on the 24th.
We have an equity meeting this Thursday at 4.
Okay,
It didn't make the list, sorry.
it didn't make the list. We do not have a school showcase at our first March meeting. We have an insurance benefits committee on the 26th, finance on the 24th.
Probably.
24th. And SiAC on the 24th. You have a school curricular visit at Miller Middle on the 27th. What's not right?
We just went to Lenahan last week. March 16th,
Where's she at?
Well, February 27th will be here first.
Monday?
Thank you.
That's the showcase.
Okay, our next meeting is on the 2nd, and Bob has a couple of policies to look at. Do you have anything that you want to report on insurance, or will that wait for exempt session?
We can, we've convened a new insurance benefits advisory committee. They have met twice now. We have pretty good representation across buildings and across different employee groups. So that was good to see. The first meeting was basically, the first three meetings are very educational in nature for this new group. The first meeting was basically on fiduciary duties and such for the committee. And then our second meeting last Thursday was an insurance basics, kind of a group insurance 101. Just trying to get the committee familiar with terminology and funding mechanisms and such. So we have another meeting at the end of February.
What have we done? Oh,
I was just going to share, there's a couple significant music events coming up as well. On Thursday night at 7 is the All-School Vocal Festival at the auditorium. And then Sunday at 3 is the MHS Winter Band Concert as well. We'll make sure they don't ask you to speak.
So we don't get to promise money to everybody?
what have we done this evening to make education better for the students in the Marshalltown district?
I think we've learned more about how the social workers can help with the students in the schools.
The strategic plan update was good to hear from, all the different categories in the strategic plan, where we are, what's going on. That was great.
Indicators, the readiness indicators, it's good to hear.
Yeah, to Mike's point too, especially for the end of the year, we'll try to make it more metric-centric relative to those areas.
Well, my quote tonight comes from James Baldwin. He was an author and poet, an American author and poet. And he said, "Children have never been good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them." May I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
McGinnis, Faltus, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same. We are adjourned. And we'll move into exempt session soon.